безопасности. Нет ничего удивительного в проведении такой дипломатии плохих воли. Их цель заключается в том, чтобы Китай не реагировал на всяческие нападки и посягательства. Они должны понять, что нынешний Китай уже не та страна, которая существовала 100 лет тому назад. Китай не будет нападать на других и не допустит подобных нападок в свой адрес. И даст решительный отпор всякого рода провокациям, подчеркнула китайский дипломат. Китай решил ввести ответные санкции в отношении некоторых должностных лиц администрации США, сотрудников Конгресса и неправительственных организаций Соединенных Штатов, которые вели себя неподобающим образом и несут основную ответственность по вопросам, связанным с скандалом, а также в отношении их ближайших родственников. Официальный представитель МИД-КНР Хуа Чуньин в четверг сделал это заявление на очередной ведомственной пресс-конференции, отвечая на вопросы об ответных мерах Китая в связи с введением американской стороной санкций в отношении 14 заместителей председателя постоянного комитета Всекитайского собрания народных представителей. По ее словам, ответные санкции были введены в связи с серьезным вмешательством США во внутренние дела Китая и подрывом его основных интересов под предлогом вопросов, связанных с Сянганом. Между тем, как отметила Хуа Чуньин, Китай решил отменить безвизовый режим для американцев, имеющих дипломатические паспорта, которые совершают временные визиты в Сянган и Алму. Китай еще раз призывает США немедленно прекратить вмешиваться в дела Сянгана и во внутренние дела Китая в целом, а также отказаться идти дальше по неправильному и опасному пути, подчеркнула. Выступая в четверг на заседании Генеральной Ассамблеи ООН по Афганистану, заместитель постоянного представителя Китая при ООН Ген Шуан призвал международное сообщество создать благоприятные условия для межафганских переговоров и помочь стране улучшить ситуацию в области безопасности. Дипломат заявил, что международное сообщество должно в полной мере уважать волю афганского народа, создать благоприятные условия для беспрепятственного проведения мирных переговоров и обеспечить проведение переговорного процесса под руководством афганцев. Никакая внешняя сила не должна навязывать свою волю, не должна манипулировать переговорным процессом в свою пользу. Китай неизменно поддерживает процесс мира и примирения в Афганистане, и через контактную группу ШОС Афганистан, диалог глав МИД КНР Афганистана и Пакистана и другие механизмы активно прилагают посреднические усилия для содействия мирному процессу. Международное сообщество, подчеркнул Геншань, должно оказать помощь Афганистану в скорейшем обуздании эпидемии COVID-19 и социально-экономическом восстановлении. Китай предоставил Афганистану несколько партий противоэпидемических материалов и направил в страну медицинских экспертов. 10 декабря в формате видеосвязи состоялся форум по медийному сотрудничеству «Европейские партнеры-2020», организованный медиакорпорацией Китая. На нем выступил с речью заместитель главы отдела пропаганды ЦК КПК, генеральный директор и главный редактор медиакорпорации Китая Шэнь Хайсюн. Представители медиакорпорации Китая и 25 ведущих СМИ 16 европейских стран провели активный диалог и обнародовали совместную декларацию об укреплении сотрудничества в медиасфере. Выступая на мероприятии, Шэнь Хайсюн выразил надежду на усиление взаимодействия между китайскими и европейскими средствами массовой информации в 3 направлениях. Углубление сотрудничества в освещении противоэпидемической работы, организация визитов и обменов между СМИ обеих сторон и усиление создания системы сотрудничества. По его словам, Китай и Европа пришли к единству мнений и имеют общие интересы по многим направлениям, таким как поддержка мультилатерализма, укрепление глобального противоэпидемического сотрудничества, содействие
Good morning. We've changed this input here. Test, test, test. There we go. Turn off the shortwave radio. I was kind of hoping for some Russian music, but that lady, I'm assuming it sounded Russian, didn't really pay too much attention. I'm not getting a lot of... I've got a crappy antenna hooked up right now because my good antenna, which is just an end-fed dipole, for those of you who understand radio stuff. I took it down start using that as my portable antenna because it packs up. It doesn't pack up too light because the toroid in it is rather large, and it's overkill for a portable antenna. But I needed a bigger, beefier antenna to handle my amplifier, so I ordered that. But because the post office, as we've learned, is very competent, and I guess Christmas has already started to destroy their ability to, well, even more so than usual, their ability to deliver things on time. Even though I ordered the antenna like 2 weeks ago, it's still like the tracking number it hasn't updated, like literally hasn't updated in like a week. And there's just this warning thing saying, due to the increased amount of packages, things might be delayed. I'm like, oh, they might be delayed, huh? So I'm still working off this dipole it's actually a CB antenna. It's amazing I'm picking up anything at all because this is on 40 meters, I think. Yeah, 40 meters. So I'm using a 11 meter dipole for 40 meters. But because it's that magical time of day, for those of you who don't know, if you want to get into shortwave, I don't know. I have mixed feelings. As much as I love radio and I'd love it for it to make a comeback, I know it's probably not realistically. Although with all the censorship and stuff that's going on and will continue to go on at a breakneck speed, maybe it'll have a use again in the future. I guess we'll see. But for those of you who want to, especially if you've bought one of those cheap shortwave radios, and it's really low investment. You can get a shortwave radio for like $10. And maybe sometime I'll do a stream or something and I'll talk about what to look for when you do that. But you can get a shortwave radio that works for like $10. Receive only. But if you do that, or if you have done that, you might have tuned around and you're like, there's literally nothing. What's going on here? And part of that could be tied to the time of day that you're trying. It's also tied to, if you're like in a city, you're going to be getting bombarded by all kinds of interference and stuff like that. But if you just have like a normal antenna, like those telescoping antennas that old school radios had, that you pull up and it's like maybe a yard or a meter long, and you can't really hear anything. Try doing it like around dawn, a little bit before dawn, a little bit after dawn. Because of the way that radio waves travel in the atmosphere and stuff, that's like the golden hours are like right around dawn and right around nightfall, but more so around dawn. You're going to get some weird long-range shit. And so even with this crappy CB antenna, I'm picking up stuff from, I guess, Russia, but also China. You get like a lot of Asia around this time of day, even with a crap antenna. Another thing you can do is you just get like a alligator clip, like a normal alligator clip that you would use in electronics to jumper two different wires, and you hook up one end to that little crappy antenna and the other end to some like a long wire, or even like a fence, like a barbed wire fence or something like that. You'll pick up a lot more stuff. But anyway. So a lot of black pills on social media yesterday. A lot of people are starting to figure out something that I've been trying to explain to them for a really long time. A lot of people are slowly coming around. Of course, I won't get any credit for it, but that's okay. Like if I did this for credit, I would have given up a long time ago, right? It is a little frustrating to see some of your harshest critics like adopt everything that they were criticizing you for saying. It's like they're on a delay. It's the amount of delay is dependent on what's going on, but I mean some of the delay is as long as like 3 years. And all the people that were screaming at you 3 years ago to 6 months ago to like even like a couple weeks ago, like with Tucker, it's hilarious to watch the emotional thinking with that. Like it's day to day it changes. Like one day it's bass Tucker, yeah, to like, oh, yeah, I knew we couldn't trust him. And then, like, literally the next day, Base Tucker, yeah, he's back. And it's a little, it is what it is. It's a little depressing, but I don't know. It's kind of expected. In fact, I was thinking about it. I did like a whole video on this. There's a video on YouTube called "The Party Is Over," and I kind of describe this whole process, especially with younger people, because taking the black pill, it's not only is it not every personality type can even really handle it. There's just some people that are pathologically, I don't want to say optimistic, and I don't really want to say naive, but something in between those two. They're pathologically unable to, which is what allows them to be ruled over by these people. By the way, if you're unable to see behind the curtain because you don't want to face that reality, it makes you way easier to rule. And I think the majority of people, to some level, are like that. Even I was on some level, especially when I was younger, I was like that. Like I even remember when I was younger and defending the official 9/11 report. I mean, to give you an idea of how much it takes. It takes time. I remember there was this video that I was sharing that it was viral amongst people who didn't want to take the black pill on the internet years ago. This guy was making fun of the jet fuel can't melt steel kind of stuff. He made this video. There was like ice in a bathtub. I don't remember. I don't know. Maybe someone might remember this, but at any rate, it takes a long time. It takes a lot of disappointments. Because most of government schools and most of media, and even what your parents are telling you, I mean, everything that you're brought up to believe is the exact opposite of what you end up concluding oftentimes about how the world works. You're raised to believe in these stories about the founding fathers being these superhumans that, like George Washington didn't want to be president. He was the reluctant president, and he could never tell a lie. George Washington, I'm the one that chopped down that cherry tree. And they were all these great men, who just wanted what was right for the universe and didn't have any kind of selfish motives at all. And it's very romantic the way it's depicted. And it's depicted that way in history books, in government schools. It's depicted that way in movies. It's depicted that way really everywhere that you're going to encounter it in America, including your parents. When your parents talk about it, if they take you to a 4th of July parade, or if you go watch the fireworks, and it's just reinforced over and over again that, we're the greatest country that's ever existed. America, fuck yeah. And there's another reason to believe it, too. Another reason to believe it is, objectively, America is, in many ways, certainly in materialistic ways, one of the greatest countries that it has ever existed. So when you hear the narrative, you hear the mythos reinforced and hammered over your head over and over and over again, and you look at the depiction of, and some of this is propaganda too, not all of it's reality. You look at the images of, other countries around the world, and especially like third world countries, and especially when media was more controlled, before these countries had access to the internet, and you're just watching images of, African children starving with flies walking around on their eyeballs, and you're just like, wow, Jesus, like I lucked out, being born in this America place. And there's nothing wrong with feeling grateful for that. I mean, I'm certainly grateful for that. It could be a lot worse. It could be a lot worse. And it's really hard when you're raised in this environment, in with this imagery, with this story, this bedtime story, to then slowly watch as the veneer kind of fades away and flecks off in the sun and peels away, and you really see behind the curtain and start to realize how much of it was just a movie set, special effects, CG, a soundtrack composed by John Williams. And you have an interest in not believing it, because it also attacks, because a lot of people will attach this fantasy of what America is, they'll attach it to their ego too. You know, I'm an American. I'm an American. Not only am I lucky to have been born in like the greatest country to ever have existed, but like that's part of who I am. Excuse me. And so if you start to take apart that image of America being this grandiose, larger than life, this fantastic, just and beautiful and prosperous nation that you and for many of us, your ancestors are a part of, you know, you're a component of this wonderful system. That so if you start to disassemble that image, you're kind of taking away from you, from your ego. So you have a lot of young people, especially, not just young people. I would say that a lot of boomers suffer from this for similar reasons, but a little bit different. And that they did have it really good. You know, boomers had it really, really good for a really long time. And so if they go to the grave thinking that they were really the last generation to surf on that largesse that was the result of World War II, really, they don't want to go to their grave thinking that they squandered that. They don't want to go to their grave thinking they were the last generation to really enjoy the prosperity, because of the implications of that. You know, what does that mean? That means they failed to preserve it. That means that in this story that they believe of you know, American exceptionalism, where America is just the greatest place to have ever existed, and the prosperity and wealth of the nation continues to grow and grow and grow, and we outpace all the nations around us, and we bring them up. We raise them up. We raise the whole world up to this new standard that we're defining daily, to this, you know, ever increasing standard of living, and you know, if they're the ones where that ceases to happen, you know, if they're the ones that are at the wheel, and it's really frustrating because boomers are still at the wheel. It's like these they refuse to die, right? You know, like they've been in control for, well, certainly my entire life, and probably everyone listening here. And so if they conclude then before they go to the grave that, oh, they're the ones that dropped the ball, I mean, they don't want to face that. And so they don't want to face that reality, and the younger people don't want to face the reality that they're the ones that showed up, that are born and show up once it's already in ruins. You know, you watch these old, especially the older, you know, TV shows or movies, and or see the old black and white photos, and you see this America, this American dream, you know, the kitschy American dream, and realize that it was just a snapshot in time. It was a snapshot in time that's now gone forever, and you're never going to be able to go back and live that, and it's never even going to get even remotely close to that. I mean, you don't want to hear that either. And then you have the forgotten generations like the Gen X and some millennials who've kind of got the shit sandwich where they a lot of them are nihilists because they've just been they've watched the decay. They were born in the tail end of the kind of Leave It to Beaverish, America, and they lived through the birth of the internet and the demographic changes just beginning to start, where at first, I mean, if you watch, for example, an 80s movie, and I was going back and watching some 80s movies, and it's shocking the demographic changes, in 80s movies, where in 80s movies, you have like the token Asian guy or the token black guy or Hispanic guy or whatever, and the way that they're depicted is often it's see, here's the funny thing, it's not that they're being ridiculed for being different, but it's highlighted that they are different, and there is something funny about them being different because the standard is still the white American. The standard, the hero of the show or the movie or whatever, is still like the white American guy. And so the best that this other group can hope to achieve in these films and in the society at the time was the status of like sidekick, because the destiny of the movie and the destiny of the country was still being defined by white America. And so when I was younger, and I'm watching movies and stuff like that, of this nature, the message is we need to be tolerant of their cultural differences, but ultimately our culture is dominant. Our culture defines America, and sure, we can tolerate whatever goofy holiday they have or whatever weird food they have, but it's still seen as goofy and weird. It's still seen as an outside thing that is not necessarily being absorbed by my culture. It's just seen as something funny that the new rivals do. And that slowly changes. Then eventually it turns into, well, what can we learn from these people? Maybe we can incorporate some of their culture into our culture. And then it goes, it keeps going. Next, a few years later, then it's actually their culture is better. And here's what's wrong with your culture. And then eventually, you get to where we're at today, and just everything that you do is pure evil. You're evil. You've been evil. You were born evil. And everyone that's from any culture that's not yours, it's automatically superior without argument or evidence. And you shouldn't even have any power at all in the country that your ancestors made. You should be handing over all the power to these other people. And really, it'd be just helpful if you just crawled into the corner and died. And so because our entire lives, we've just watched this evolution from, as I said, like not as innocent, certainly the 80s, it was already in full swing, but compared to today, I mean, the 80s was kind of Leave It to Beaver, right? In fact, I think they still even played reruns of Leave It to Beaver, and people watched it. Like now, I don't think anyone would be able to even relate even a tiny bit to a show from. I watched. There was a TV station that played mostly reruns because it was just an independent station, and I watched the Dick Van Dyke Show. I even watched like reruns of I Love Lucy, and a lot of these black and white TV shows. they still had an audience. You could still pull an audience if you played reruns of these shows. That would never happen. It's so unrelatable to people. And not only that, but 90% of what they would see would be considered racist or white supremacy or something of that nature. So, I mean, even The Simpsons, as I was watching all The Simpsons, which has been on the air now for, I think, 32 years, there are earlier episodes, that they would never, ever be able to make. They would never be able to put these episodes on the air. And in fact, they've gone back and when they do place these episodes on, when they do the older seasons online, there's episodes missing for this very reason. And eventually those episodes will be memory hold permanently. And so that's why I think Gen Xers and millennials who've lived through the transition from where we were to where we are, because we've seen, that's been our entire timeline, our life timeline, is that we've seen, going from believing in the American story there was always a positive view of America in films. We had movies like Red Dawn, where Red Dawn was showing that this was good behavior, to have to be a prepper and to stand up for America and fight for it, and that was the propaganda of that film. To trans or drag queen story hour. I mean, it's quite a dramatic change in the culture. So I think that those generations tend to be a little more black pill just naturally, because we've seen the change. Whereas if you're younger and you were born after the change, you haven't seen how bad you didn't know, you never tasted how good it was before, so it's kind of like you don't notice the difference. If you drink something that tastes like piss every day of your life, you don't know that before you were born it used to taste like Kool-Aid. And maybe it was Kool-Aid. I mean, obviously it was. It didn't hold up. It didn't hold up, and people failed to preserve it. I think it was a done deal by the time we were around. And in many ways, as much as we like to shit on boomers, I think it was even kind of a done deal by the time boomers were around. So, anyway, I'm still waking up a little bit. I had a good sleep last night. I finally got some good sleep last night. Makes a big difference if you can get out of the house and do some physical labor. I did a lot of physical labor yesterday. Got a lot done around the pillbox. So what happened yesterday, for those of you who are living in a cave or don't pay attention to the world around you, which I don't think is anyone here, the big court case that Trump tweeted out, like, this is the big one, and everyone was very excited about. There was 22 I think states that signed on to it, and the argument before the Supreme Court was that by states like Pennsylvania and Georgia failing to abide by the standards laid out in the Constitution as to how their elections should be conducted, that it necessarily devalues the votes of Texas and these other states that signed on, right? And meaning that, well, if I'm Texas and I'm following the rules to have a fair election, and I submit my votes for, my electoral votes for president at the Electoral College, but these other states are just kind of winging it or fraudulently coming up with how they're going to determine their electoral votes, then I am automatically disenfranchised because I'm following the rules and they're not. And which is a solid argument, and certainly at least an argument that deserves to be heard, right? But what happened? What happened was we found out that the 3 justices that were nominated by Trump did not agree that that needed to be heard. Kavanaugh, Gorsuch, Coney Barrett. And I'm sorry, if you have a hyphenated last name, that should automatically just disqualify you as a serious person, let alone as a Supreme Court justice. I mean, for that matter, having a vagina should disqualify you from being a Supreme Court justice, but that's another matter. All 3 of these judges, and we were told, and I again, it's not that I like being right. It's just that it's annoying being right when everyone else is so wrong all the time. But these justices that we were told, oh no, this is at the very least, I mean, okay, so maybe Trump didn't build the wall. And I know there's probably people listening. They're like, he did build it. No, he didn't. And it's not going to get. He replaced. Anyway, we'll get into that some other time. Not only did he not build the wall, he didn't deport. He didn't do mass deportations. He didn't fix the DACA thing. He didn't. He increased H-1B1 visas. I mean, he didn't really do any of the stuff that's the civilization-saving stuff that needed to be done. Like the whole reason people were lining up behind Trump. He was supposed to drain the swamp. Like there were crucial, time-sensitive things that had to get done because this was like the last stand. We had to throw in the human hand grenade into D.C. and hope that he took out at least enough of the structures that they would crumble and we could rebuild and survive the communist takeover that's been slowly going on for decades. Excuse me. I do not have the coof. It just it rained finally out here, and it kicked up a lot of stuff that's just been baking in the sun for months. But not only did he not do all this stuff, I mean, we were told, at least he fixed the court. He fixed the court because the Supreme Court, that's so important because what's going to happen is the left is going to try to pass all this crazy shit. They're going to try to take our guns and all this other stuff. And at least by doing that, by having Trump in there, he has secured the court for, decades to come. And we can regroup, even though Trump failed to deliver on really everything important, at least we'll have the court and they'll stave off the leftist agenda for a while. And I was telling people then what is obvious today, that none of these people were based. Kavanaugh was Bush's lawyer and helped write the Patriot Act. He was Bush's lawyer on 9/11, but people didn't care because it's okay because he's Catholic and he drinks beer. Oh, okay. Biden's Catholic and drinks beer. Does that mean we good? We good with him being president? Coney Barrett, all you had to do to know that she was a bad idea was, again, look at the hyphenated last name. And look at the token adopted black kids. That should have just been like, there's 2 giant red flags. You don't really have to do any research. Just on its face. Okay, she's got a hyphenated last name and 2 adopted black kids. Automatic, no. Automatic no. And a vagina. But again, I get it. Maybe we can't go there yet. But at least look at the obvious. Gorsuch, look, he looked a little more realistically okay. I don't know, and maybe there's stuff I don't know about him that makes him bad. I didn't complain too much about him, and so that's not so much of a big deal. But look, clearly that was a bad choice too. All three of these justices that Trump picked ended up being just as bad as everybody else that Trump hired. All three of them. They essentially said that voter fraud is legal in the United States, meaning that, I mean, obviously that what they didn't say that voter fraud happened, but what they said is the conditions that voter fraud would happen is totally okay. That you could have a state very openly rig its election, and that other states wouldn't have standing. And all the lower courts are saying that literally no one else has standing. I mean, that's been like the whole thing, right? That's why all these court cases are getting thrown out. For those of you who don't understand what that means you can't prove the damages. So, in other words, if someone slipped and fell in a stadium and broke their ass, I couldn't sue the stadium because, I don't have any standing. That person would have to sue the stadium. The person who broke their ass would have to be like, hey, I have standing because I broke my ass. And even then they could throw it out if they decide that, you fell on purpose or something like that. But with this case, it would appear that no one is damaged by potential voter fraud or the other states not following the Constitution. It's like no one has standing, which makes sense because, again, something else I've been telling you for a really, really, really long time. We are post rule of law. It doesn't matter if the law says this or that. It doesn't matter. That's not what the hierarchy, that's not what the power structure is there for. Just like this summer, it was obvious that the cops aren't there to serve and protect. Clearly they're not. Nothing you've been told about how this whole system operates is real. None of it is. It exists to preserve itself. The entire hierarchy is the entire existence of the hierarchy, or rather the function, is to prolong the existence of the hierarchy as long as humanly possible, by any means necessary. So if you do something that's going to threaten the existence of the hierarchy, the entire weight and force of the hierarchy is going to come down on you like a ton of bricks. And if you try to challenge that, then you have no recourse within the system. You have no recourse. Now, there are other legal challenges going on. I think Sidney Powell, the Q mommy, Sidney Powell, released like 3 more Krakens yesterday or something like that. And those will all go nowhere. It's becoming increasingly obvious that whole thing is just a fundraising operation. And they are raising quite a lot of money. They're getting a lot of money for that. So they can submit cases with very obvious typos and spelling errors that Q people then start to think are secret messages to them. See, that's really, if you want to understand why people believe in QAnon, that's what it is. They don't want to believe that's how much they don't want to take the black pill. They would rather believe in this crazy convoluted fairy tale than face the reality. That's how serious this problem is. It's not just a matter of, well, if I take the black pill, I'm going to be sad. No, for some of these people, they're not going to know how to handle it. They're going to go off the deep end. Some people can handle that. I mean, look, for me, I think when I really, really, really took the black pill was when I started to see, and I know people, there's still people that are like, oh, Pizzagate was a psyop, blah. Look, there were elements of it that were, there were people there that were promoting crazy shit that had no basis in reality. But as someone who studied it thoroughly, there was definitely, the core of it is still very real. There is 100% some really fucking creepy shit when it comes to Podesta and pedophilia, the Temple of Set, even Dennis Hastert. I always go back to Dennis Hastert because that's provable. And, you had a federal judge say in federal court that he was I don't remember the exact quote, but he called the guy a pedophile. And this guy was 2 heartbeats away from the presidency. This guy was Speaker of the House. And just knowing that the guy who was Speaker of the House was a rampant pedophile. And not only did many of the people around him know that he was a pedophile, the FBI knew for a really long time. The FBI knew that foreign governments, and I think we can, no one's disclosed what those governments are, but I think we can all come up with at least a few possibilities, were delivering underage boys to his apartment in D.C. They knew it. He was under surveillance, and they knew it. And I think when I realized, wow, it's not just, they're not just like incompetent, and they're not even just kind of like scumbags. Like, when I think about my reference, that's the other mistake that people make, is you can only compare people to the people in your life, really. If you're trying to, because you're not there, you're not in D.C., you don't know Mitch McConnell personally, right? And so all you have to go on is what you see on TV and what you read about the guy, and you can come up with like a psychological profile, if you will, just based on your experience. You can only base it on your own personal experience. And so a lot of these people who can't fathom the level of evil, it's because you don't have people at this level of evil in your life. You don't have anything like that to draw on from your personal life. So it sounds like a crazy thing that there would be literal pedophiles running DC, because most people, hopefully, don't know a bunch of pedophiles in their day-to-day life. And if you did, you wouldn't respond in the same way that, when John Podesta, who clearly knew Dennis Hastert was a pedophile, and there's emails that we have. Like, all this is proven. This is why I stick to the Dennis Hastert part, because it's so, you can't argue it. There's emails of them lamenting that he's going to jail. And he didn't even go to jail for the pedophile stuff. They had to nab him on some other lame shit, which is why he's already out. He only went to jail for 15 months for being a pedophile for 40 years or some shit that we know about. They got him on a campaign finance violation because he used some of his campaign money to pay off one of the kids he was fucking. But he didn't he wasn't charged with fucking the kid. He was just charged with misusing his campaign funds to bribe the kid. Like, that's another black pill. When you realize, wait, hold on. They got him, but that it wasn't even for being a pedophile? Like, that wasn't even like the big deal? And then on top of that, see, this is when you start to realize how deep the corruption has to be. This is when you start to realize how dark it has to be. Not only did they not even throw him in jail for being a pedophile, it was the campaign stuff, but it could have been stopped years prior to that. because an FBI whistleblower who knew about him because of the surveillance that was going on went to the New York Times and said, look, Speaker of the House is fucking underage boys. And is compromised because these other governments are sending him little boys. And the New York Times wouldn't print it. They did the same thing the court did. They printed the stuff about the campaign finance stuff, but they wouldn't touch the other stuff. Excuse me. And then if you go further back, I mean, it keeps going back. The more, that's the thing, is once you start going down this rabbit hole, that's when you realize how bad it has to be. Because what environment would allow this kind of stuff to just go on all the time? You know, because for me, that's how it started. As I learned about Dennis Hastert, and then you find out about, the Franklin scandal, the Boys Town stuff, the Finders, Epstein. I mean, you just realize, holy shit, this is not an anomalous thing. This is a feature of the ruling class. This is normal. This is a normal thing. It's part of the culture. Jimmy Savile in the UK. So it's international too. It's not just limited to the United States. It seems to be, and there's probably a lot more other stuff that, I just don't live in these other countries and I haven't been researching I'm sure these kinds of things exist, in Germany. They exist in Italy. I mean, well, certainly they exist in the Vatican, So this seems to just be normal behavior for these people. And once you realize that that's the kind of behavior that isn't just acceptable, it's part of the culture. It's impossible for you to be white-pilled. Because you can't expect the products and the participants of that culture to do anything courageous and good. Because they're not stopping kitty fucking that's going on in their midst. I mean, if you can't be expected to stop kitty fucking that's happening at the office, I don't think you're going to really lay it on the line for people you don't know, people you claim to represent. I think it's pretty clear why you're there. And it's not just the kitty fucking. That's like the most obvious moral failing. It's hard to argue the morality of that, right? Although they're trying. They're trying. It will be normalized. It's already halfway there. That's another thing people told me I was crazy. Oh, it'll never be normalized. And I was saying that before Drag Queen Story Hour. Years before Drag Queen Story Hour. And again, this is another thing I'm not happy to be right about. I do not want to be right about this. It'll be normalized. Once you realize that the evil that the ruling class is capable of, and has been capable of, and has been involved in and participating in for our lifetimes, longer than our lifetimes, our entire lives, the people who are supposed to be at the wheel and steering us somewhere, through the storm and protecting us, that's all an illusion. That's not what they're there for at all. And the problem is, one of the things that's allowed them to behave in this manner for so long is, just like the boomers, they've been skating on the largesse that resulted from World War II themselves. If everyone in your country is fat and happy, they're not going to be complaining. So the watchdogs that might have in the past kept an eye on power and tried to keep it in check, they're distracted by their Cheetos and Netflix. Before that it was their in the 60s, their Woodstock, their LSD. When everyone's fat and happy, it's easy to get away with stuff. And unfortunately, thanks to the new technologies, it's increasingly easier for them to keep everyone fat and happy. It's super easy to mass produce calories, delicious calories. And it doesn't matter if it's poison. In fact, that's probably better, right? It's probably better if the chicken feed will eventually sterilize. If you don't like the chickens, you're just feeding them because you can't outright kill them, because there's so many of them that even though they're chickens, the numbers are so great that they will attack you and take care of you. So you can't just outright start attacking them. You got to poison them. And that's one way to do it. And they'll never see it coming. They'll be gobbling up that poison and loving every second of it. And if one of the chickens says, I think this is poison, well, the other chickens are like, no, what are you talking about? Stop being a black pillar. This tastes good. It can't be poison. I like eating it. How could it be poison if I like eating it? The farmer's, he's not as bad as you're saying. He gives us food every day. Every day he comes out and he just throws food on the ground. How could that be bad? You're so black-pilled. Maybe, you know what? In fact, if you don't like the flavor of the poison, maybe we can get this other farmer to buy a different brand of poison. I don't know. Maybe that's not the best metaphor, but I think you get what I'm saying. So legal options, in terms of legal options, I mean, they're running out of the time. In terms of the court system, let me put it that way. It's not that they're running out of legal options. There are legal options, but it starts to get more and more into fantasy land that it's going to actually be accomplished that way. Right now, best case scenario, I don't think this is even like the case, but best case scenario, you're looking at, and I kind of suspected this. In fact, I said that the court could very easily punt it because the court always dodges anything like this, where it's, and they've said so in decisions. It's not like a secret. They've said so in decisions where they've literally spelled it out and said, technically we shouldn't rule this way, but if we don't, it's going to have this effect that is bad for the American people. And that's not their job, right? Their job isn't to decide if it's bad, because who's bad for the American people according to who, not according to all those states that filed the lawsuit. But they've often punted it or ruled a certain way that was unconstitutional, explicitly unconstitutional. They knew it and they said it, but because it would endanger the hierarchy, really, but because they say it's to protect you from yourself, they rule that way. And so as soon as you have that court precedent, once it's compromised like that, once they're comfortable, it's kind of like the censorship thing, right? Like as soon as the tech companies were comfortable censoring, what was it, Daily Stormer, I think was the first to really get hit. That's when you knew, so they're just going to keep censoring and censoring and censoring until someone physically stops them. And that's what's happening, right? Same, once you cross that line, you have to be stopped. You're not going to stop yourself because that line was what was stopping you, right? The line was the ethics. The ethics was the knowledge that if I cross this line, then there's nothing determining what, there's nothing that's explicitly saying who's okay to censor and who's not. It's just all up to me. So that's the line, right? That you don't want to cross, because once I cross that line, then anyone can just be censored. So once you've crossed it, you can't uncross it. You're done. You will just censor as many people as you want until someone stops you. Well, the same thing with the court. Once they cross that line of, we know this isn't the constitutional thing to do, but we're going to do it anyway, then it's just going to keep getting worse, because no one stopped them, and no one's going to. I mean, they're going to have to be physically stopped, because it's the ethics were, well, our job is to interpret the Constitution and execute just interpret the Constitution. That's really it. Interpret the Constitution and make judgments based on what the Constitution says. So the moment that they go outside that umbrella of what it is they're supposed to be doing, and no one stops them, like, that was the ethics. That was the thing that was preventing them from just, following their every whim, from just ruling based on, oh, I like that lawyer's titties better than the other lawyer. Because at this point, if the Constitution doesn't matter, that's eventually what you're going to get to. Eventually you're going to get to, there's really nothing because you're no longer bound by what you were directed to do when we created the position. So anything goes. And that's the problem. Too many of these lines have been crossed across the board. Too many of these lines have been crossed. And now the system is just kind of like it's formalities. It's all just, it's decorum. It's not even formalities. It's just decorum. It's just dressed up tyranny. It's tyranny with more steps. And it always was, I mean, if you think about it, that's what the Founding Fathers had planned on. They wanted to make a system that would make it difficult for tyranny. But eventually that system gets watered down. Every time someone crosses one of those lines and no one stops them, that line's been crossed, and it's not going to be uncrossed. And so little by little, over the last 250 years or so, enough of those lines have been crossed to where the system itself is no longer functional. And nothing about the system at all would be recognizable. If you showed the Founding Fathers what their creation had ended up like, I don't think that they'd be surprised, because that's why they built it like that, because they kind of knew that this is the way it was going to go. And so they just built in enough shit in the way of people that wanted to be tyrants that at least it would take a while, And it has. It took 250 years. I think there were some other assumptions. I think they made the assumption that demographically we would stay the same. And in fact, they talked about it openly, and you can read this in their writings. Benjamin Franklin didn't even want Italians coming here. He just wanted basically the Anglo-Saxon people, the same people who founded the country, to be the stock that we were pulling from when it came to immigrants. And so all these people that say that, the Founding Fathers wanted us to be a big melting pot, that's bullshit. They're literally white nationalists. I think they probably also assumed, even though I don't think that the Founding Fathers themselves, like people always say, well, they were deists, they weren't atheists, they were yeah, but they weren't exactly super religious. They weren't like super Christian. I mean, the people were at the time. And I think, but not the Founding Fathers themselves. And I think that's another assumption that they made was, well, this is, historically, if you went back, in their modern historical record would lead them to believe that, Christianity is going to be a feature of America for the foreseeable future. A large part of the society, a large part of the culture of the people that live here. And so you can make some assumptions based on that, some assumptions on the behavior of the people that you're going to have, because a lot of this experiment included the people self-governing, right? Like if your whole system is based on not having top-down dictatorial edicts and having as few laws as possible, then the assumption is there's going to be some self-policing going on. And that was a large role of religion. And it, which, by the way, worked up until post-World War II. Post-World War II, one of the things that's going to be featured in my Simpsons video is the correlation between, and it doesn't mean causation. I think it's one of the many causes. But the correlation between the way church attendance and Christianity is depicted in The Simpsons, and church attendance in America, it correlates perfectly. In the first seasons of The Simpsons, the Simpsons go to church, and while church is depicted as maybe kind of boring or something like that, it's not as, by the last season, they're saying that atheists go to heaven and that God is going to change. It's like this weird, they have a whole episode in this very last season they did, maybe it was the one before that, where God is sitting there and saying, you know what? There are many paths to God, and it really doesn't matter what religion you practice or really anything that you do. No one's going to hell anymore because I'm God, and I've decided that as long as you didn't rape anyone, you're pretty much going to heaven now. And there's like a whole episode about that. It's weird how much they focus on this. And by the I don't know if you guys know this, Jews don't believe in hell the same way Christians do. Which is a large part of that. When the people designing your culture don't believe in a major thing like that everyone else believes in, that's going to have just that by itself is going to have some huge implications. Because that was part of the self-governing. Part of the self-governing was, and this applied to the leaders. If you had local representatives, if you had senators that believed that they would go to hell if they did bad things, that's gonna have a very positive impact on how the government is run. If everyone in Washington right now truly believed that if they did bad things they would go to hell, we would not be in this situation right now. The fact of the matter is, almost none of them do. Almost none of them do. I don't even think Trump believes in hell. And if he does, he certainly doesn't think he's going there. All right, so let's take a look at chat. There's the typical everyone, the weird infighting with Christians that's ever so productive. It's super gay and part of the problem, so all you guys doing that are fags. Let's see here, what else do we got? Putin said he is the president of Russia and his only responsibility is to represent Russian interests. Yeah, maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. I don't know. I'm not Russian enough to know if that's real. That's the image we're presented with. I don't know if that's really how he rolls. Trump with his Jewish grandkids. Yeah, but Biden and his Jewish grandkids. Every one of Biden's kids married a Jew too. So pick your poison. That's pretty much the. It's 6 of one and half a dozen of the other. What do you think of groups like NJP or the Patriot Front? NJP, what's... Oh, the National... Yeah, I think that's the kind of thing you have to do if you want to challenge these groups. The thing is, though, you got to understand what you're up against. You're up against a lot of money. So I think it's still going to be feeble. I hate to describe it that way. I don't want to discourage people from trying these things, but you're up against the kind of money, like if you're looking at political solutions, which is what that is, right? If you want to, I'm going to make my own party and I'm going to explicitly stand up for the rights of the ancestors of the founding fathers and try to, set the clock back or set it forward, or whatever, but it's a political solution you're talking about. It's probably not going to work. It's not going to work. I don't think there is a political solution. And I think everyone knows that deep down, or most people do. I mean, look at the Twitter trends the last couple of weeks. It seems like people are figuring that out, The problem, the issue is that that requires sacrifice. And a big part of why we're in this mess in the first place is that people aren't even willing to do the bare minimum. People aren't willing to lose their jobs. They're not going to speak up at work because they don't want to get fired. Or there was that meme where, Christians, 1,000 years ago are getting fed to the lions because they wouldn't deny Christ. And Christians today are just like, okay, Gavin Newsom, I guess I can't go to church. And that's the difference right now. We have a cucked society. We have a society that's too comfortable. They're not willing to give up even the most, okay. To understand my situation, and one of the reasons I have a little disdain for these people is I could be making a shit ton of fucking money right now, like a shit ton. More than probably almost everyone listening. And I could be living really nice, in a nice place. I would have to have a mortgage. I'm not going to be I wouldn't be super rich. But I could make a lot of money, have a nice place, have a fancy car, have, jet skis or whatever the fuck I want. And be totally blue-pilled and play whatever the new video game system is at all times. Always have the latest video card and all that nonsense. I could do all that. I've done all that. And I decided years ago, around the same time I took the black pill and I saw how bad it was with Dennis Hastert and all that stuff. I was like, oh, the right's in trouble. Because the right is really shitty at communicating. And honestly, we have a lot of NPCs. I mean, it's really easy to make fun of the leftist NPCs, but sometimes it's harder to look in the mirror and see the NPCs on our side. We have a lot of NPCs, and we have a lot of there's not a lot of people that are pointing out the real problems that we've got going on. And so we're not having a lot of discussions about solutions because a lot of these problems are being ignored and overlooked. And I'm someone who sees the problems, and I feel like I'm fairly good at communicating them. And while I'm not ever going to be someone that's going to even be in history books or anything like that by any measure, in some small way, I think I can help the people that are my tribe, that are under attack, who are facing an existential threat. I think I can help them identify these problems, and I can be part of the discussion and the solution. I'm not really, I'm not a big picture solution guy. I'm just not. I'm not going to come out and say I've identified all these and by the way, that's the other thing that if I already know if you say, oh, don't talk about a problem unless you have a solution. I already know that you're a corporate cuck slave. Because that's corporate cuck slaves are the only ones that think like that, because their bosses will tell them that, so they stop complaining. So you're just programmed to not complain about something because your boss doesn't want to have to address any of the issues you have. So they just tell you, well, unless you're going to do my job, don't explain to me that there's a problem. Well, I'm gonna explain to you when there's a problem, even when I don't have a solution, or if it's a solution that maybe people aren't ready for, or a solution that really you can't even openly discuss. But I'm going to do my best to identify problems, help with the solution, and communicate it in a way that I think that I'm uniquely qualified to do. I've been doing communications my entire life. I feel like I'm pretty good at it. And I knew once I decided that's the road I'm going to take. It might get in the way of a lot of the other previous life goals I've had. It might get in the way of having the kind of family life that I had envisioned. It might get in the way of my financial goals. It might get in the way of my like, I'm not a classy, snobby guy, but I mean, to some extent, everyone is, right? A little bit. And so it might get in the way of my status, where I want to be in the hierarchy. It might get in the way of a lot of these things that I used to really value. And I know that the institutions are going to attack me financially in every other way that they can. And I'm going to have to reorganize my life to deal with that reality. And so I did. And I live in a really shitty place. Like, look, I've learned to love it, like you grow fond of a place, especially when you fix it as much as I've fixed this place. But look, it's a shitty place. It's not nice. The bunker, the pillbox, it's not a great place. It's not someone that you feel like you want to have dinner guests over and show off the cheap linoleum floor in your really shitty bathroom with really low water pressure and only one temperature or two temperatures, either really cold or maybe kind of lukewarm. And the like the 1940s electrical system with no grounding anywhere when I use electronics as much as I do, and the leaky roof and the I could go on and on and on. This place is a fucking nightmare. But I don't have a mortgage. And that's what I could do. That's what I could pull off. I could pull off because I knew you will lose all your clients. In fact, I did lose all my clients. In fact, I have clients that owe me money and have owed me money for a while, and I don't suspect they're going to be paying me that money, and I don't have the money to go to a small claims court and try to get it. So it's just gone. And the location I'm at's not ideal, but it's like I said, it's what I could afford. The internet situation is pretty dire, but it's what I can do. So I'm making all these sacrifices in my life to try to help these people. And these people can't even stop their Netflix subscription. You see why that might be a little frustrating? These people can't stop their Netflix subscription. They can't cancel their Amazon Prime subscription. That's why we're fucked. And look, I'm not even that mad because, again, I'm black-pilled. I get it. That's what I expect out of people. That's why I'm black-pilled. I expect most people to not cancel their Netflix or their Amazon Prime. That's why we're in trouble. If I thought they would, I wouldn't be black-pilled. See that? But that's the difference between me and a lot of these people that are telling you that, oh no, there's a political solution. They're just looking at the immediate. Yeah, in the here and now, in the immediate, is it that big of a deal? If you cancel your Netflix subscription, is that going to bankrupt Netflix? No. Is that going to punish Netflix if you go cancel your subscription today? Are they going to have a memo that goes to the entire country? Oh, Jimmy Johnson, he canceled his subscription today. We better change our ways. As of right now, no more pedophile shit. No, of course not. And that's the problem, is we have this instant gratification. I want results right now. For any sacrifice I'm going to make, there better be results right now. And that's just not the way the universe works. The people that subverted this country didn't do so overnight. The sacrifices they made didn't pay off. Some of them didn't even get to live long enough to see them pay off. Then you're just not serious. You just don't have your head in the game if you're not willing to make the kind of sacrifices that Like, look, me doing this might not change in my lifetime, especially. Me living like this might not change anything really for me. In fact, I think it's a pretty safe bet that my life would probably be easier if I just took the blue pill, like the guy in the Matrix, right? That's like, oh, I know this steak is fake, and I'm just going to eat it anyway, and go back and take the blue pill, go back to the Matrix. I could be that guy and do that, and ultimately, in my lifetime, is it going to change anything? Probably not. I don't have the kind of ego that's required to think that things that I'm saying and doing here are going to, in my lifetime, dramatically alter the course of the world history. You know, like I'm not crazy like a lot of these people are crazy. But it's still worth it because it's what I can do. I'm using my talents in whatever way that I can, no matter how small that ends up being. I'm putting my money where my mouth is. And who knows, maybe I'll reach someone who will then, it'll have the butterfly effect. Maybe in some small way I will change someone's thinking and then they'll change some, who knows? Who knows what'll happen? And I'm optimistic about that. People thinking that black pilled means that you can't ever be optimistic. They're just people that don't want you to look at the world realistically. I'm optimistic about a lot of things. I'm optimistic that, we'll eventually see our way out of this. It's just going to be painful and long, and it's going to require a lot more sacrifice than what people are doing right now. And I'm not saying that, therefore everyone go out and quit your jobs today or whatever. You have to be smart about it. I was smart about it. I slowly, not too slowly. Look, I'm here, right? You can't be too slow about it. But I didn't just willy-nilly reorganize my life. It's something you have to think through and carefully do. But you got to do it. You have to detach from the system that's killing you. You have to stop feeding the beast. Or you really have no, like the Supreme Court will say, you have no standing. You can complain all you want, but if you're still feeding the beast, you have no standing. Case dismissed, motherfucker. All right, here we go. You're being heard from Portugal. Sweet. I've actually made ham radio contacts in Portugal. See, ham radio will, as much as I don't think shortwave is going to take over, ham radio would be a very useful communication tool if they shut off the internet. Like, let's say, by some miracle, Trump decides to take it to the next level. I don't think that's going to be what happens. But that's what a lot of people are putting their hopes on, is that the military, because this is I don't know that the founding fathers would agree with this, but the modern interpretation on the right of the establishment right, or I guess the MAGA right or the Q-tard right, or what, I don't know, however you want to call those people, is that it is now, or it will shortly become, if all legal options are exhausted, it'll become the military's obligation to then step in and say, look, we're one of the checks and balances. I don't think that that's how it was initially viewed, but they are another branch of government, and they could. I don't think that that'll happen. But if it did, let's say one day the internet's just doesn't work, or cell phone service, or both, doesn't work. You'll know why. That's something screwy. That's what'll happen. If there is like a military coup, communications will be shut the fuck down. And so the only way that you might be able to find out what the hell's going on is going to be through radio. And the only way that you might be able to communicate with the outside world might be through ham radio. Because they can jam that shit too, but they can't jam it 100%. It's not like a wire they can just cut. It's very porous. You got the the ability to jam the entire spectrum throughout the entire country is just, that'd be insane. They would not be able to do that. And I don't even think they even have the infrastructure to even try to do that, because it's such a small, it's such a minority of people that would even have the equipment, right? So it just isn't worth it to budget for that. But yeah, good that I'm in Portugal. I hope my East Asian made radio isn't compromised. Yeah, look, I don't care if it's East Asian. All my radios, most of them are East Asian. They're Yaesus, which are Japanese. Even my old ones, right? They're all tube radios, but they're Japanese. But the SDRs, I have one SDR. For those who don't know, software defined radio. So it basically has firmware that determines what the radio can do. If it's not connected to the internet, it's not a big deal. But a lot of these radios are connected to the internet now. You hook them up to the internet so you can there's apps on your phone. Like modern, I don't like modern radios because it's basically just an extension of the internet, which is kind of defeats the whole purpose. Where you have these apps, I've seen like these boomers have their phones. And they can like pick up their phone and they can use their radio that's 1,000 miles away at home, and they think it's so cool. And I'm like, no, because you're using the internet. That's why even use the radio at that point? Why not just go on a Discord server if you're having to use the internet to get to your radio? Why? But that's so as long as you're not doing that, you're pretty much okay. I wouldn't worry about it. Have you done a video on blood libel? No, I have not. We must work on laser comms. Set up a relay system. No, that's why you want ham radio. Is anything that's requires an infrastructure. What you need is comms that are point to point, where there's no infrastructure whatsoever required. That's why when all these people are talking about like, oh, what we need is like a Wi-Fi web, like this, where everyone's got like their routers hooked up to like this tangle where they're all connected and we have like this. No, because it's you need an infrastructure still. With an HF radio, all I need is me, and anyone out there that I talk to, they just need whatever they've got, and so there's nothing in between me and them, which is why they can't block it. Which is why I don't have to worry about something infrastructure-wise breaking. Like if you get your technician license, you have to use a repeater to talk to people, and that can go down. The repeater in my area goes down all the time. So, our ham radio is expensive. Yeah, if you don't know what you're doing, especially because there's, you can get good deals. There's ham radios you can get for $200 that'll do what you need it to do. But you got to research that shit. There's a lot of junk out. There's a lot of overpriced junk, and there's a lot of just expensive accessories and stuff that you don't need. For $250K USD, you can buy $1 million beach house in Brazil. But do you really want to live in Brazil? I don't know. I think here's the thing. I've thought about this because I have the option to leave the country. And I've thought about it. But the problem with that is, you can run away from the problem. It's just going to follow you. It's just one of those things where what do you feel like doing? Do you want to do you think the West is worth saving? Because if you do, you got to stick it out. You got to dig in and try to fix this because no one else is going to do it. Now, you might say, like, hey, I'd rather, it's better for me, personally, to just leave. And even if I go to this other country that's already super cucked or whatever, it's not going to bother me as much because I'm not going to feel like it's my country. I'm just going to be a tourist. So who cares if the local government is corrupt and shitty and everything like that, because I'm just here to have a good time. Then why even leave, you know? Why not just let America go to shit while you live here too? You know what I mean? Like it's because basically all you're saying is I don't want to fight. And sadly that's what most people are saying, and that's why we're like this. Okay, let's see here. Sweden is falling too. Follow the golden one. He seems like he's all right. I haven't watched a lot of his content, but I mean, I'd heard of him. I heard of him like years ago, and but it wasn't until very recently that I subscribed, because I just never saw his channel show up anywhere. And finally, by some freak miracle or some glitch in the algorithm, it showed up in my recommended one day. I was like, oh, okay. So I subbed over there, and I think I watched like one of his videos that was, and it seemed like he's pretty cool. All right, let's take a look here. You can fight for America from a distance. Yeah, but I mean, in some ways, you can't physically fight for America from a distance. And if you think that's an inevitability, as I do, it's not going to be helpful to anyone here if you're in Europe or something, you know. All right. Yeah, I don't agree with this at all. Better to survive today and fight another day. Dying in the struggle is pointless. No, it's not pointless. Perhaps you've heard of martyrs. Was that Jesus' philosophy? Aren't you asked to be Christ-like? Did Jesus say, well, you know, I know the Romans are coming, but I'm going to sneak out the back here and fight to, you know, live to fight another day? No. He didn't think that dying for his cause was pointless. See, that's the thinking right there, is everything that's wrong with the right. Everything that's wrong with the right is they've been kicking the can down the road now for generations. None of them have wanted to be the ones that actually risk anything. They keep thinking, oh, we're going to live to fight another day. Yeah, but are you really ever going to fight? Where's this fight going to happen? You keep talking about. Oh, you're going to live to fight another day. Okay, so there's a plan to fight in another day. Like, what day is that exactly? Is that the day after you're the boomers and you've lived your entire life, and then as everything's just gone to shit, and then you die, and the next generation has to live to fight another day? Like, at what point do you fight the other day? Like, where's this day you keep talking about? I don't see this day. I think that day's now. If not, when? You know, because if you can't tell me when this other day is, you're just using that as an excuse to not have to fight. Let's see here. The femoid question supersedes the JQ right now before we disappear. I don't know. I think that people are too hard on women in the movement because, and I understand 100% why. We need women in the movement. We need their hearts and minds. We don't need them like in the movement, but we need them on board. And the strategies that I see a lot of people employing in terms of how to relate to women in the movement are very toxic and are not, you catch more flies with honey. Okay? And there's a reason why it's kind of a sausage festival. You know? Because, look, women don't even like hearing that you don't want them to have political power, right? The women, you have to understand, you got to know your audience. And women right now are under a totally different propaganda paradigm than men are. Women grow up thinking that they're very special and they're powerful, and they don't suffer the same grievances. They don't have the same grievances that you have because they don't have the same kind of adversity that you have. It's way easier being a woman. So a lot of your complaints might even sound crazy to a woman because they don't experience life as a man. And they've been told the polar opposite of what you're saying is true. It's a tougher sale. So you got to be a little mindful of that. You can't just be like, oh, women are dumb. I mean, if you look at the IQ distribution, yeah, most women are midwits. You know, like when it comes to IQ distribution between men and women, men are either like really fucking dumb or really fucking smart. Like they're distributed on the two polar opposites more so than women are. Like with women, there's like a gathering at the middle, right? Where there's not as many of them are fucking complete morons, even though it might seem that way because of their behavior. But also, not as many of them are going to be geniuses, which is pretty apparent because of, you know, they don't invent shit or anything like that. So, midwits are particularly difficult to deal with because they're not dumb enough to realize how dumb they are, and they're not smart enough to realize how dumb they are, you know? And so they think they're smarter than they are, and they're women, so that the way that they think is totally different. It's not like a logic, spatial-based thinking. It's not a cause and effect kind of a, you know, troubleshooting kind of a thinking. You know, there's a reason why women aren't good at coding. You know, the following a linear, sequential chain of events and understanding the causes and effects of that. I mean, that's programming, right? You know, if this, then do this. If this, then do this. And it just gets more and more complex, and you're basically building this big machine that is just a series of cause and effects. Or not even a series, it's like a spider web of cause and effects. And it just that women don't think like that, which is why they shouldn't have political power. Because if you look, I mean, women are better at thinking in the micro than they are in the macro. Because if you think about their role over all of human history until recently, their thinking was the micro, the family. I got to take care of this little house or what, you know, cave or whatever, and these handful of children and my husband, and like that's pretty much it. My sphere of influence is small. My experience in what my actions, the repercussions of my actions are usually pretty easily apparent right away because, like, you know, my actions only affect my immediate family, whereas men had to think beyond that and interact with the world in a much more deadly way oftentimes, which would weed out a lot of the men who weren't good at thinking like that. So you just got to know your audience. You got to understand what you're dealing with when you're dealing with women. And I understand the anger towards women, and I understand the frustration towards women. Look, I've dated a lot of shitty women. I get it. I get it. And there is no easy answer to this. If there was, I mean, and there never will be, by the way. This is something that's plagued men since Adam and Eve. You know, what's the very first story in the Bible really is about women fucking over men because they weren't thinking about down the road, right? Like that's the first thing the Bible tries to tell you is that we were living in paradise. You know, everything was great and awesome. And then some fucking snake came and said, hey, eat this apple, it'll be good. And the woman doesn't think about, well, what would be the chain reaction be that I set into motion by eating this apple? No, it's just like, oh, all right, I'll eat the apple. That sounds good. And bam, paradise is over. I mean, the word woman itself, the woe of man. So it's not a question that's going to be, I'm not going to be the one that answers it. It's just one of those things that's just, it is what it is. It's an obstacle that we have to navigate. But the solution isn't therefore we bully every woman out of our movement, because again, who wants to? There's a reason why bars have ladies' night, because if you have ladies' night, the men will show up. If your movement is full of beautiful women, more men are going to show up. And by the way, if your behavior is that, if what you project is strength and justice and strong masculine vibes, you're going to attract good women anyway. So I get it. There's just no easy answer. Trust me. I've had my own tangles with this subject. I've been very open about the fact that I lost a fiance over all this. Deciding that this was the road I was going to take. She wanted to take the blue pill. She wanted to go live the fancy life and work some meaningless job that made her feel fancy, because she would get to be around rich people and wear fancy clothes and we could have she didn't want to give up the fancy house. She wanted to have she wanted to be a Kardashian, basically. That's what a lot of women want. That's why they watch that garbage. They might not admit it, but that's kind of what they want. They want to be envied. They want to be fancier than everybody else. I mean, that's their demons they have to fight, and many of them don't fight them because they're not even told by anyone that they should. The left isn't full of lookers these days. Yeah, and that's the other thing too. We kind of get, if you think about it, as much as right-wing women are few and far between, they're usually pretty attractive, and not just physically. They're usually just attractive people. They're people that you want to be around and you like to engage with, because it's rarer, but it's yeah. I mean, I've dated my share of lefties, and that's usually a nightmare for every reason you can think of. My ex-wife is still searching for more. Yeah, that's women. They want resources. There's a reason why there's no female hermits, right? When I say the word hermit, you immediately think of some long-bearded guy living in the forest by himself or whatever. Women aren't built to do that. Women can't survive that. They certainly won't do it under their own initiative. I don't think they're capable of doing that. I think a woman would. I mean, it's hard enough for a man to do that. It's hard work to disconnect from the system. That's why most people don't ever do it. It's hard work. It's hard work to disconnect from the system, and even I'm connected in some ways. I mean, I'm trying to wean off as much as I can. But, I'm still connected to the grid, for example, in some ways. My solar power that I generate here isn't enough to power everything that I need to power yet. It will be eventually. Might take years. I don't know. In the meantime, I do what I can. But it's hard to just totally disconnect from the system. Hermit women are witches. Well, there's cat ladies, but they're not like out in the forest living off the land. They're in the cities living off the government. They're living off of you. How do I find a right-wing woman? I wish I could answer that question. In my experience, church is a good place. The political stuff, when people have asked me, like, well, how useful do you think these political movements you see where people are doing these rallies, the Stop the Steal garbage It's been, at the very least, it's been infiltrated by grifters. I don't want to say the entire thing is grifters, but there's certainly a lot of grifters attached to that. The rallies that you've seen recently, or the National Justice Party, stuff like that. That's another reason why you don't want to exclude women politically, because these could be situations where it's good for men to meet right-wing women. And if the women don't feel welcome at these places, you're not going to meet them. So that's another reason why you want to make these events and these groups a place where women feel welcome. Now, again, doesn't mean they have a say. It doesn't mean that they're the leader of anything. It doesn't mean that they're participating in the structure of the group. But they should feel totally comfortable going there. And in fact, you might even want to think about if you're one of the organizers of these groups, or you're thinking about making your own group, think about what groups did in the past. In the past when you had social clubs, or you had political clubs that included wives and in some cases, I guess, female children, they would have like a separate room for the wives where they did like activities or something, something fun. Now, you'd have to modernize that a little bit, but I would think that if you're going to be doing one of these groups or one of these organizations, you might even want to get, your one exception to female participation is you find a woman who's in charge of like the women's group. You sexually segregate it in a way, and you let them do their own little thing and their thing, because there are things politically women can be good at. So you let them have their own little gender segregated organization that's not the main organization and isn't maybe ever even public facing in any real meaningful way. But in the background, it gives them something to do. There's things you can think of that they can do. And they could even do, you could even, like, from an education standpoint, you could introduce propaganda into that group that makes women want to have children and make families and homeschool and all that stuff. You just make it separate, though. So that's one solution. There's a solution right there. We've talked it through, and we've come up with a solution to the female problem, and that is, okay, separate but equal. You can have your own little club that we will help you with nominally, and we'll find some strong, smart woman that can be the matriarch of that club, and then you guys can go crazy and stay out of our hair. Okay. Uniforms, fundraising, childcare, etc. Yeah, like they could be the ones sewing the uniforms. They could be in their groups making our flags and baking pastries for the bake sale. And there's things women could do, and it'd be totally fine. You just keep them separate. You keep them in, you just don't make them your keynote speakers. Like maybe at the big event every year, you have a representative of that group give you kind of a lowdown of how the group's doing, the successes, the challenges, if they need any help, that kind of a thing. That's cool. But they're just, they're the women's group. And they should be treated as such. They're not the main course. They're a side dish. And, it keeps them busy, keeps them to where they're able to participate because, like I said, hearts and minds, right? And they can do matchmaking. There's so many ways you could do this. You just have to segregate, which is something that especially Christian institutions have been doing for eons. And I don't know when or why that stopped, but that seemed to be a good way to do things. I would kill to find a woman's group like that. Well, there you go. Rockwell's Daughter, 1488. You could start a women's group like that. And I think there's people that have sort of. I mean, it's a difficult thing. A lot of it requires. It would require some funding, but it does require the support of the men's group, because it isn't a main course. Like I was saying, like this it's going to be a subsidiary. So it needs to have the support of the main group in order to be successful. And then all the men that are in that main group can funnel all their wives and girlfriends and sisters and moms and whatever into that subgroup. So, anyway. Sounds better than Muslim guys taking our women, which is exactly what'll happen if you don't. If you just try to exclude them, if you just try to ostracize them and you just try to humiliate them out of your group, they're not gonna just be like, oh well, I guess I'll just vote right wing the rest of my life until they take away my vote. No, they're gonna rush right out of your arms and into the arms of one of your enemies. When you date women, tell them right up front that you're looking for a wife, want to have children, and you're not going to have sex with them. Yeah, I mean that's a strategy that could work. I would definitely, if that's your goals, it's very important to be honest. And you'll know right away, even if they lie, you'll know right away if that sits well with them, but just by their reaction to that. And you're right, you should bring that up as soon as possible in the beginning. Otherwise, you're just fucking around and wasting time. Christian women are a headache. I don't know. There's a lot of good... People make fun of the Karen meme. They get mad at Karen. I know Karen's doesn't... A lot of Karens are atheists, but that's that psycho energy of the... Now, look, I hate the piety personality, whether it's in women or men, and it seems to appear more often in women when it comes to Christians. So if that's what you're talking about, I know what you're saying, but that's a totally separate problem. Christian women can be the best women because they've got that psycho energy of wanting to... First of all, they buy into, like, their faith is stronger, in my experience, maybe, which is limited, but their faith seems to be stronger in many cases than the men. In my household, the reason we went to church every Sunday wasn't because my dad wanted to, which maybe that was part of the problem, right? But it was because my mom wanted to. And it was my mom that was the religious one. I mean, my dad went and participated, and he wasn't just, like, always phoning it in, but sometimes he was. And my mom was never... Like, her faith is, like, rock solid. She totally buys every little bit of it. And in my experience, that's more often seen in women. And that's useful. That's a good thing. You just have to channel it. You have to guide it. Or it will go to somewhere crazy. I have this stupid open chest button that's not going away. I thought I already opened it. MGTOW is shit. Yeah, look, MGTOW is an overreaction, but I understand it still. I understand it. And look, at a certain point, for certain men especially, right? Like, some people are just very unfortunate looking, or their circumstances put them in a place where they're just not going to be competitive on the sexual marketplace, no matter what they do. And especially not right now. And when the sexual marketplace was regulated and there was a way that these men could still be, not assigned a woman, but kind of, in a regulated sexual marketplace, there were definitely structures in place that would, not every man, but a lot of these men could be paired up with a woman that nowadays will be on Tinder fucking everyone that'll fuck her that's above her pay grade in the short term until she's dried up and useless. So I can understand the MGTOW thing where a lot of these men who are kind of disenfranchised, I guess you would say, by the deregulation of the sexual marketplace, and they really can't compete, it's like you have two choices. You can try for the rest of your life to find a woman and put a lot of energy in that and waste a lot of your resources trying to find someone that, and in many cases for a lot of these men, fruitlessly trying, and waste decades of your life trying to find this person that doesn't exist, and then you're still alone, only now you've wasted maybe 20 years of your life because you were spending so much of it on trying to find someone. Now, again, this is a minority of men I'm talking about. This is a small minority. But this minority still exists. Or you can come to terms with the fact that, it just doesn't happen for everybody. It just doesn't happen for everybody. And I can still be happy and not as happy. I don't think. But I can structure my life to where at least I'm not going to be some depressed, lonely old guy in an old folks home eventually that's being subsidized by the state and no one cares when I die. Which might happen anyway. But you can at least... So I have sympathy for these guys that... Where that's, they're... Now, again, this is a really small minority that this applies to. But that minority still exists. And there's a lot of people who falsely think they're in that minority because there's already men have always struggled with interfacing with women. That's just like a story as old as anything. And now in this modern world, it's just exponentially harder to interface with women. Especially if your goals are long term. It's super easy to get laid, but it's not easy to find a woman who's not always trying to upgrade constantly. Because that's what we all do, right? The boomers would get a job and keep the job for 40 years and retire and that's that. Whereas these days, everyone, including myself, we switch jobs every couple of years. Every couple of years, I found this job that pays $20,000 a year more for basically doing the same thing. I don't really have any loyalty towards this job, so I'm going to go to this other job without even caring too much about the original job. And you just kind of trade up. And there's a lot of women that kind of treat the sexual marketplace the same way, where they'll date you now, but the moment that there becomes a opportunity that they see as better, they ditch you and go right for that opportunity. And just like with the job market, by the way, sometimes what happens is if you jump ship because the grass is always greener, and then it turns out that you hate the job, you sheepishly call up your old boss and be like, "Hey, boss, remember how I quit so I could get the other job? Well, it turns out this sucked. Can I have my old job back?" Usually they say no, but sometimes it's the same thing. Women do the same thing. Or if it turns out not how they had envisioned, they're like, "Oh, maybe it wasn't so bad here." But that's what employer is going to want that? Okay, so I hire you back, and then you're going to be here until the next good job comes, and then you're going to jump ship. Look, it's we could talk about this endlessly. The woman problem it's a big problem. It's a big problem. And there is no easy solution. I would just say, and I don't think that I'm too crazy in saying this. If you decide that you're going to want to do MGTOW, right? Part of that should just be self-improvement. Just for the sake of, having a healthy, happy life. If that's your plan, to be alone and just try to enjoy what you enjoy, whether it's, whatever it is, and try to be happy on your own. Maybe be a good uncle to your nieces and nephews or something like that. And I would just say, look, okay, if that's the plan, then focus on self-improvement just as part of this plan, and you might be surprised. because your value will increase on the sexual marketplace. I think there's a lot of men that are resentful because they're told their entire lives that, oh, women don't really care as much about the physical as men do, you know? And so they don't focus on the physical as much as women do, because women are more valued on their looks and men are more valued on their capabilities, or at least that's what you're told. Well, now that's not the case, right? That's not the case. And looks certainly figures into how a woman determines. That's not, and unfortunately, that's not the only thing. There's no one thing. Women want the best, and they always want. They always want an improvement on that, even after they get it. They want it to keep getting better. But that could be a good thing too, because it drives you to improve yourself. But anyway, my point is, if you're this MGTOW guy who's like 50 pounds overweight, or maybe you've got bad skin, or I don't know, there's something that's physically something that you can do something about, you know. It's not just something as simple as, you know, it's not something like, well, my bone structure is really weird, my face is super asymmetrical. Like, oh, sorry, buddy, like you can't really fix that. But if you're really out of shape, you can get in shape. If you've got bad hygiene, you can get good hygiene. If you've got bad hair, usually you can at least make it, you can always make it better. There's a lot of things you can do to make yourself more attractive that takes a lot of work sometimes, and more work for other, you know, depending on who you are. So I would counsel you to do that before you decide to go be a monk. Like, I've thought about throwing in the towel. I have a lot of times. And again, you can't think like stage one thinkers. You have to you have to take it, do the butterfly effect thing. You got to take it all the way through. And every time I think about throwing in the towel and just saying, you know what, fuck it. I've spent so many resources and so much, you know, financially, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, on the disaster that is the Western woman. And I'm done. I'm done. I can be happy alone. I'm very good at being alone. And I'm very good at solitude. I rock solitude so hard. Like, I'm really good at this. I'm just going to be a hermit or a monk. I've thought about that and said, like, look, think of how much more of your life, because a lot of your brain power when you are single, even if you're not consciously thinking about it, there are processes in your brain being filled up with, like, gotta get laid, or like gotta get a woman, gotta reproduce, you have all these like things, like, you can push them to the back of your mind, but they're always running. And it takes up a lot of your overall processor power. And the only way to unload those processes is if you just determine, like, you know what, fuck it, I'm just not going to do it. And that can be very relaxing, and that can be very comfortable. I think that's why the MGTOW people do it. It's just like, the anxiety's gone. I no longer have to worry about it. And I've thought about that. But invariably what happens when I think it like that is I take it to its eventuality. You know, like the Carl video that I did. I don't want to be like Carl. I don't want to die alone in the desert in a room full of porn. You know? I don't want all of my sexual experiences for the rest of my life to either be courtesy of my hand, or some rando I met at the bar, or a prostitute, or non-existent. You know? And those are your options if you do the MGTOW thing. Your options are, you either just never have sexual experiences, you furiously masturbate, you fuck strangers for free, or you fuck strangers you pay. Like, those are your options. And I don't like those options. So I would just counsel anyone who's thinking about MGTOW, especially if you're young, don't waste your younger years. If you're like, I don't know, like 40 and you start thinking about MGTOW because it still hasn't happened, that's a little more relatable. But if you're like 25 and you've already thrown in the towel, I mean, come on. That's just every 25-year-old. We didn't have MGTOW when I was 25, but you just had normal frustrations with women where you were just like, fuck it, I'm giving up women, I'm done. That's normal to have those thoughts. Just don't take them seriously. It's just like it's normal to, anything that you fail at, it's normal to want to just stop doing it. But you shouldn't. Failure is how we learn. Let's see here. Things are so bad now, you have no idea. Oh, I have an idea. If you're talking about internet dating, I have a very good idea. Very good idea. Very relevant idea. I know it's bad. I know it's I've watched it get worse. You know, it's kind of like what we were talking about with the Gen Xers and millennials watching it go from Leave It to Beaver to fucking Drag Queen Story Hour. I mean, that's, you could say it's a metaphor for that, what the dating scene's been like. The dating scene has undergone. I remember when I first started internet dating, it was still kind of, you know, taboo. Like, it was only nerdy losers would internet date. And now that's just how everyone dates. And the quality of woman that you would meet, especially because of what that's selected for, right? Like, in the first years of internet dating, you're going to get nerdy white girls, basically. Like, that's who's going to be on OkCupid or whatever the older ones were. Like, actually, I think Plenty of Fish has been around for, like, eons. But OkCupid was around, well, like 20 years ago? Like, it's been around a long time ago. Yeah, it's been around a long time. I think 20 years ago. So, at first, when you start using that, yeah, it was like all nerdy white chicks. It was kind of cool, kind of great, actually. And we've just gone from that to Tinder or Bumble or one of these apps where it's just a nightmare fest, where every kind of person is on there. So the pool has been increased to include all these fucking horrible women, but also flip it around. If you're a guy that was on OkCupid 20 years ago with all the nerdy white chicks, that was also the men that they had to choose from. So it was like nerdy white girls who had nerdy white guys to choose from. It was like a good pairing in a way. Now, not perfect, but I had much better dates back then when it was like, oh, you know, I'm a nerdy white guy, you're not a nerdy white girl. Unfortunately, a lot of nerdy white girls are super liberal, especially, and that's just always been the case. That was like the fatal flaw of that strategy for me, but it was way easier to actually date like a normal person. And now, like, you know, when I was using dating apps recently, or not super recently, but within the last few years or so, it's like you meet women that just want to, like, it's weird because it's like, where were these women when I was like 19? Were women that literally want to hit it and quit it. Like, they want to fuck and like move on to the next guy, and they'll tell you that. Like, it's weird. It's weird. There's a lot of fucking trashy human beings, and a lot of single moms, and that increases as you get older. You know, when you're like 20, well, actually, maybe that's a little bit. There's like a few single moms when you're like 20, but by the time you're 30, it's like most of the women you're going to match up with, it seems like, are single moms. It's ridiculous. Excuse me. It got to the point where that was one of my no-nos. And it got to the point where I was just like, fuck it, I'll date single moms, I guess. Because, you know, that'll quadruple the pool. But unfortunately, that, you know, I'm glad I tried it out, but it's like, that comes with its own problems that make it untenable. So anyway, all right, guys. Been going for about 2 hours now. I'm glad that we've talked about lots of crazy stuff. And we will now wrap things up. In terms of the what to look for in the future, I don't think that that Trump's going to take things to the next level, across the Rubicon, as people are putting it. I think it's just going to be, as I said, literally I think the day after the election, he's going to have a lot of legal challenges, go to the Supreme Court, and whatever they decide, and however that goes, that's what Trump's going to do, and that's it. And I think that's exactly what we're seeing. And what will happen as a result of that? I mean, there might be movements outside of Trump. There might be people reacting when Biden gets sworn in. They might be reacting in a I don't know, extreme way or something like that. But I don't see anything being led by Trump. I think Trump will pursue the legal options, and then if that doesn't work, that's it. I don't know how the legal options will unfold, but if I was a betting man, I had to bet. I suspect Biden will be sworn in January. But I don't know. That's just if I think the odds are higher of that happening than of not. I don't think the media or the military is going to step in. I don't think the military supports Trump like that. I don't think the military, for the same reason that the FBI never, like Trump didn't purge any of the agencies. He may not have. I don't know how much power he really had to do that. So, look, it is what it is. But he doesn't seem to have any control over any of his agencies, and I don't see why the military would be any different. So, in the meantime, all you can do is hope for the best, but prepare for what I think is probably going to happen, and that is we'll have a Biden president, and the repercussions of that are not very positive, are they? So I would prepare for the worst in that respect, and even if no matter what happens, prepare for the worst, because there's a lot of ways this could go where you're going to be really happy that you did if you do. So that's about it. Make sure you guys have supplies. Make sure you've got lots of brass and food and water and communications and all that good stuff. And we'll see what happens. We're living in interesting times, if nothing else. For Black Pilled, I am Devin Stack.
Dun, dun, dun.